गुड इवनिंग एवरीवन। विनय।
गुड इवनिंग रविंदर।
हाँ जी, वॉइस क्लियरिटी सब ओके है?
सब अच्छा है सर।
ओके। गुड इवनिंग हिमजा एंड गुड इवनिंग सैनिक सर।
Good evening, good evening, all of you. Vipin, Vinay, and Himja.
ओके, तो आज का हमारा पॉइंट है, टॉपिक है कि व्हाई विल द करंट बुल मार्केट बी डिफरेंट फ्रॉम 2020 एंड 21। जैसा कि हमें याद है कि जो पिछला पहला 18 महीना का जो हमारा जो बुल मार्केट स्टार्ट हुआ, काफी फास्टेस्ट एंड फ्यूरियस था। 150% का रिटर्न हमें सिर्फ 18 महीनों में मिला। 7,500 से निफ्टी ने 18,600 तक का सफर तय किया और इसमें बहुत से स्टॉक ऐसे थे बहुत ही ज्यादा अच्छे रिटर्न दिया। किसी ने 100% तो किसी ने 500% तक का भी रिटर्न दिया है। हाँ, तो अभी जो नया यहाँ से मार्केट अब जो डायरेक्शन पकड़ा है, जिसको हम लोगों ने लास्ट पिछले कई स्पेसेस में जून में मई में जो भी हम लोगों ने किए थे, उसमें हम लोगों ने इसको एक बुल मार्केट की तरह बताया कि एक फ्रेश बुल मार्केट स्टार्ट हो रही है, करेक्शन ओवर हो चुका है। तो इसका मतलब कि जिस बुल मार्केट की हम बात कर रहे हैं, इसमें और पिछले बुल मार्केट में क्या कोई मेजर डिफरेंस होगा, उसको डिस्कस करना यहाँ पे बहुत जरूरी है। क्योंकि बहुत हमेशा लोगों को जस्ट जो बीता हुआ पैटर्न है वो याद रहता है। अभी अगर जैसे कहें कि गिरावट जो हुई दो पिछले 9 महीनों में, तो अगर आप एफआई का डेटा, डीआई का डेटा देखें, तो आज 3,040 करोड़ का एफआई का बायर है और 740 करोड़ का डीआई सेलर है। तो इसका मतलब कि 2,200 करोड़ का माल किसी ने बेच दिया। तो कौन बेच रहा है? रिटेलर बेच रहा है। रिटेलर उसी पैटर्न पे है जो पिछले 9 महीने में हुआ कि हाँ, मार्केट तो 17,000 18,000 आती है और वापस गिर जाती है। तो इसलिए बेच रहा है क्योंकि हम पैटर्न्स में जस्ट जो लेटेस्ट पैटर्न था हम उससे कनेक्ट रहते हैं। और अगर बुल मार्केट की भी बात करें, जैसे ही इनको आइडेंटिफाई हो जाएगा कि नहीं नहीं ये बुल मार्केट है, तो इससे भी एक्सपेक्टेशन वही रहेगी कि जो पिछले 18 महीने में हुआ था कोरोना के क्रैश के बाद, कुछ वैसा ही होगा। बट ऐसा बिल्कुल नहीं होगा, क्योंकि वो मार्केट का फंडामेंटल जो कोर था, जो भी की लेवल था, वो सब बहुत ज्यादा डिफरेंट था और ये मार्केट में बहुत ज्यादा डिफरेंस होगा। मैं भी इसको ऐसे बोल सकता हूँ कि 150% का रिटर्न आपको 18 महीने में मिले और अगला आपको 150% का रिटर्न इंडेक्स में जो मिलेगा, वो शायद 150% वो भी होगा या उससे थोड़ा ज्यादा हो सकता है, 200% भी हो सकता है। लेकिन वो आपको इसी रेशियो में नहीं मिलेगा, कि इसी रेट से नहीं मिलेगा कि 18 महीने में 150% मिला तो अगले 18 महीने में हमें फिर से 150% मिले। ऐसा बिल्कुल नहीं होगा। इस बार की मार्केट जो होगी वो ज्यादा मेच्योर होगी, बहुत ही ज्यादा प्लान वे में बाई होगा, जिसका फंडामेंटल बहुत अच्छा होगा, बहुत ज्यादा फ्यूचर देख के होगा। क्योंकि पहला जो फ्लो हुआ था वो रिकवरी था पहला। वहां पर एक फ्यूचर विजन था कि ये सब शॉर्ट टर्म पीरियड का एक फॉल है, ये प्रॉब्लम है, ये सब रिजॉल्व हो जाएगा। और उसका जो मेन बेनिफिशियरी था, आईटी था, मेटल था, वो सब रिकवर बहुत ही ज्यादा रिटर्न दिया उन लोगों ने। बट ऐसा अगले वे में नहीं होगा। अब जो होगा वो मार्केट बहुत ही मेच्योर बिहेव करेगी, बहुत प्लान वे में बाई करेगी, बहुत आराम से चलेगी। ये स्लो होगा और इसमें वही लोग अच्छे परफॉर्म करेंगे जिनका सच में बुनियाद अच्छा है, जिनका फंडामेंटल सही है, जिनके लिए लॉन्ग रन है, वही लोग परफॉर्म करेंगे और ये मार्केट बहुत आराम से होगी। अब ये कैसा हो सकता है, इसमें इंडियन पॉलिसीज क्या चेंजेस हुई पिछले 1.5 साल 2 साल में, और फॉरेन पॉलिसी में कितना चेंजेस हुआ, फंडामेंटल में कितना बदलाव हुआ, ये हम सब लोग जानेंगे सैनिक सर से, विनय से और हिमजा से। हिमजा से मैं इंट्रोड्यूस करा सकता हूँ। ये फॉरेन पॉलिसी में इंटरेस्ट रखती हैं, इनकी काफी डेप्थ लेवल पे लर्निंग है। इन्होंने एक बुक भी लिखी हुई है और ये रेगुलरली मॉनिटर करती हैं कि पूरे वर्ल्ड में जो भी कुछ हो रहा है उससे क्या इम्पैक्ट पड़ रहा है दुनिया पे या हमारे ऊपर। तो इनकी काफी इन डेप्थ एनालिसिस है। तो हम स्टार्ट करेंगे हिंजा से ही, क्योंकि अभी पहली बार इंट्रोडक्शन हुआ है। तो अभी हम सबसे पहले इसी पे फोकस करते हैं कि जो भी फॉरेन पॉलिसीज में चेंजेस हुए हैं 1.5 साल में, बहुत मेजर एक्टिविटी हुई है। एक तो कोरोना के कारण एक अलग सेटअप था, उसके बाद जो वॉर स्टार्ट हुए और काफी जियोपॉलिटिकल इश्यूज क्रिएट हुए हैं। तो अब जो नया रुख जा रहा है वो किस डायरेक्शन में जा रहा है और इसका इंडिया कितना बड़ा बेनिफिशियरी होगा। तो हिमजा जी, आप अनम्यूट कर सकते हैं।
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Am I audible?
Yeah, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay. So it's good to be here. Um, so basically, foreign policy wise, दुनिया में अभी बहुत interesting चीजें हो रही है. मतलब technically, अभी when we look at things, we know that everything is becoming very expensive the world over. The inflation figures were very high, and they seem to be getting relaxed a little bit. The different country datas are coming and they are confirming that. And along with that, we know that there was an oil crisis because of the war, Ukraine Russia. Commodity prices were very, very high. And there was a very interesting point that I think Senik sir was one of the first to call out on Twitter. That was the supply glut that we were experiencing, uh, the impacts of which are visible in the United States. इसको bullwhip effect कहते हैं, and what that effectively means is कि stores के पास inventory बहुत ज़्यादा होती है. They don't know how to manage. तो उसकी वजह से अमेरिका के जो बड़े रिटेलर्स हैं वो बोल रहे हैं कि आप हमको, अगर आपको आइटम नहीं चाहिए तो आप रिटर्न मत करो, आप हमसे रिटर्न का पैसा लेके जाइए, बट प्लीज आइटम अपने पास रखिए, बिकॉज हमारे पास उसको स्टोर करने के लिए जगह नहीं है. सो इसको बुलविप इफेक्ट कहते हैं, जिसका रिजल्ट वी विल बी एबल टू एक्चुअली सी इसका क्या इम्पैक्ट होगा इन द मंथ्स टू कम. अभी इन रीसेंट इवेंट्स जैसे, मतलब कुछ ही दिन पहले वी नो दैट अमेरिका का एक देयर वाज अ वेरी हाई डिग्निटरी विजिट विथ ताइवान. Nancy Pelosi went and she expressed solidarity with Taiwan and said that we share democratic values, and और उसके बाद obviously China has followed it up with these military drills, island blockade किया है, in a complete show of strength. Foreign policy mein, we have a very interesting saying, and this statement has been often repeated by one of our former raw chiefs, Mr. Vikram Sood, and he always says that enmity with the United States is good, but friendship is lethal. Now, obviously, previous Cold War के time पे India remained non-aligned. This time, हमारे पास वो choice नहीं रहेगी, and for obvious reasons, we will not be able to go with China. So we are kind of stuck, being in the US camp within reason. तो अभी ये जो विक्रम सूद सर ने कहा, उसके पीछे लॉजिक क्या है? तो let us understand that before Nancy Pelosi came to Taiwan, just few days before, the American Congress passed two very significant laws. The first was the CHIPS Act, which is around $280 billion. This was purely meant at reviving the semiconductor industry in America, which was America's biggest weakness and which was Taiwan's strength. So they very well knew that हम जब भी ताइवान जाएंगे उसका action reaction होगा, which they had already prepared in advance. That was one. They also passed another very, very large bill called the Inflation Reduction Bill. Now, in this Inflation Reduction Bill, there was a significant amount of money, around $70 to $100 billion, which was allocated towards climate change and green energy. That is to create those energy sectors in the United States. After Pelosi left, one of the key factors that happened was China suspended climate talks with America. So, I mean, on the face of it, when we see this, it doesn't seem very, very significant. But what this actually will mean is that America will gradually and quite, significantly reduce reliance on China's immense supply chain for minerals, components, etc., etc. So, what we are effectively going to see, there's going to be a complete overhaul of supply chains globally. So, all this money that America is investing in recreating manufacturing in terms of high tech, in terms of green energy, clean energy, new technologies, to basically meet its Paris Agreement targets, it's going to invest this money within the country and within its partner countries. So partner countries may UK will be one, EU will be one, Australia will be one, Japan will probably get some part, and India will get a significant part. So we can expect a lot of manufacturing to directly, indirectly find its way through the supply chain to India. That is one part. The second part is that the US and China will, again, as part of the inflation reduction, they will move from climate cooperation to climate competition. So again, इसका भी जो spiral effect है, वो भी इंडिया पे वापस आएगा. एक और इंटरेस्टिंग चीज है दैट यूरोप में अगले साल से उनका कार्बन रिपोर्टिंग एक्ट इफेक्ट में आ जाएगा. दे आर कॉलिंग इट द कार्बन बॉर्डर एडजस्टमेंट मैकेनिज्म. And the US also in passing this Inflation Reduction Act, ये चीज भी उन्होंने, they are coming on the same lines. पिछले ही हफ्ते इंडियन गवर्नमेंट ने बताया कि for the top 100 listed companies by market cap, Indian companies will have to give out their ESG reporting, which is again carbon reporting. And पिछले हफ्ते में our Lok Sabha also passed a law to create a carbon trading market in India at the national level. So basically, India is also going on those lines to become part of a new supply chain, which is going to be adhering to the US side, US, EU, the UK. So and this thing is going to be applicable not only for goods, it's also going to be applicable for services. अभी ये चीज हम दूसरी in terms of Indian market कैसे confirm कर सकते हैं? So let us say that अगर हम पिछले हफ्ते का Reliance का annual report देखें, तो in that Mukesh Ambani has said that RIL is investing over 70,000 crores in green energy, and they are expecting that this sector is going to outperform all the other sectors of Reliance. That is one thing. The Tata Group is also investing around 70,000 crores. Same in similar industries. They have a JV with a real estate company. I forget the name right now. So this again will actually end up facilitating as far as the services aspect is concerned. Because अगर Indian companies को उनका goods and services export करना है, तो along with the cost of their raw materials, उनको carbon compliance भी करना पड़ेगा, because that is going to become an extra cost. In terms of our IT companies, I believe TCS and Infosys are already fairly compliant as far as ESG carbon reporting is concerned. तो जब हम ये सब चीजें together देखते हैं, along with the fact that Xi Jinping is going to continue the pressure because October में उनकी Congress है, where he wants to get he wants to consolidate his position. Similarly, at maybe in a few months time, just round about Thanksgiving, I believe America में भी उनका एक election है, तो वहाँ पे भी उनकी भी government will have something to prove. So I think by that time already we can see that the inflation figures are slightly easing, the commodity prices are slightly cooling off. So वो time तक it is quite possible that Fed अपना monetary tightening जो कर रहे हैं अभी gradually थोड़ा ease करना शुरू कर सके. तो अभी के time पे जैसे विपिन जी ने बोला that currently we are seeing that the buyers, I mean the DIIs have basically turned sellers. Till May it was the FIIs that were actually the sellers. Once that aspect happens and the Fed starts easing, that is of course I am not someone who can opine on the markets, but I would think that logically by end of the year DIIs should actually start turning buyers once the Fed starts easing, because that is effectively when they will feel they are getting the green signal. And matlab, whatever I have learned about the markets from Vipin ji and from Sainik sir, एक चीज हमेशा होती है that the average retail investor tends to be at least 1 or 2 cycles minimum behind smart money. Smart money always enters much before, and we never know when they have entered. I mean, of course, if we are fortunate to figure that out, then हमको मार्केट का बहुत अच्छा बेनिफिट मिलता है, but that doesn't always happen. So if all this actually follows plan the way I think it should logically, then what we can expect is manufacturing to have a fantastic boost. Manufacturing, the engineering sector, construction sector, IT sector, all parts of tech, green sectors, credit growth has to go up, which will mean banking, NBFCs should benefit significantly. Once that happens, FMCG, hospitality, tourism, auto, all these sectors also will end up gaining. But since it is probably going to be heavily manufacturing based, and the fact that this compliance is going to end up costing the companies, we may not really see that kind of very, very fast, explosive growth, but it is going to be more of a slow and steady growth that is here to stay. Yeah, I think, those are pretty much my thoughts. Vipinji, over to you.
Okay, thanks, ma'am. Sainik sir.
Yeah. Thanks, Vipin. Thanks, Imja. I think you gave a very good overall macro view. And any investor has to look at macro and then you must drill down to micro. That's a very interesting points you made. Hopefully, people have understood that. Vipin bhai, with your permission, I may take a little more time than Imja, but I'll try to be as short as possible. So broadly, I agree with what Vipin bhai is saying, that this bull market will be different from what we saw in 2021. The reason being that it was a panic bull run then, in the sense a lot of money was put and people just piled on. And now that people have come to senses, the second wave, or in this case, it's the third wave. If you talk of somebody talking of Elliott wave, in the very simplest form, Elliott wave is a superb way of understanding market moves. I don't believe in these webinar guys of Elliott waves who complicate us by putting that X wave and Y wave and Z wave. But in a very simplistic form, it is the first wave, we can say from March 2020 to October 2021. That is the wave when, in that you can subdivide the waves, but I'm just saying broadly, that is the wave when people were believing that they will be dead to getting overconfident. So people thought they'll die in March 2020, but when they realized that they will not die, then they piled on. The second wave, which is the wave which is from 18,600 to say 15,200, is a way where people have done excesses and they start throwing away those stocks, and that is what is the second wave. The third wave is what we are in now, is my belief. So the third wave, as far as Elliott waves are concerned, is the longest wave and the smoothest wave, and that is when your maximum profits would come, because then fundamentally good companies will participate. In the first wave, anything and everything participates. In the fifth wave, again, anything and everything participates. So the third wave is the one where we should capitalize on if we are in a bull market. Before that, we should ask ourselves, what is bull market anyway? See, most of us have this old definition of 20%. So if a stock or an index goes up 20% from the low, then it becomes a bull market. Then we have to ask ourselves, are we in a bull market? Because if you look at it from 15,200, we have not gone 20%. So some smart ass will come and tell us, no, we are not in a bull market. Now then the question will be, were we in a bear market? Because the Nifty has not gone below 20%, because that is the definition of a bear market. So as Vipin bhai says, we were in a teddy bear market. So we should not worry too much about these definitions. They are very good for theoretical people who sit down and will never ever trade, but will earn money only through webinars and seminars. So here we are practical people. We fight our way every single day, take positions, and we should be worried about or concerned about where we are in any particular economic cycle. So I strongly believe that we are in up cycle, And that is very visible when in the last basis also we talked about major sectors having gone into bullish orbit or all-time highs. And Nifty itself has not gone below whatever 15,000. People are talking 14.5 and 12.5 and 12 and 7.5. And all. So that's all history. This always happens. So I go back to find out that is this. So we are in a bull market, is my opinion. Now the question will be, how can we say we are in a bull market? We are not gone 20%. So why can't we be in a bear market rally? Now the difference between a bear market rally and a bull market, if you have got enough experience, let's not go too much into precise numbers, is this. In a bear market rally, it will be very short-lived and very swift. Before you blink your eye, the prices would have gone up. Example, if you take the last bear market rally, which was very ferocious, which was about 2,500 points between March 8th and April 4th. So that went up in 19 trading days. Now take this rally of 2,500 points, similar. This has taken us 39 days, okay, more than double. So this is how bull market rallies start. They don't start and run away very quickly. They will trouble you. As a bull, it will question your commitment. People will mock at you when you buy because after 3-4 days, the prices don't go anywhere. Then they fall. So only by mocking and being frustrated will the bull market starts. That's why they say bull markets climb a wall of worry. This is a wall of worry which the bull market is slowly and steadily climbing. So I'm very clear in my mind that we are in a solid bull market. We're in the third wave of a bull market. Now, the question is, we have already gone 2,500 points. People are scared. I would like to address that for a couple of minutes. See, we are saying, okay, my God, it's already 2,500 points. And the biggest bull, one Mr. Bhasin, who's been always shouting that we are in a bull market, now has become extremely bearish. He's talking of 16,300. And so people who mocked at Bhasin now will turn around and say, see, Bhasin himself has become bearish. So this bull market is over. Now, I'll take you back 20 years ago. In 2003 December, so in 2003, what happened was the entire, the market had collapsed by April. And by December, we had already gone up by 81%. Here, we have gone up hardly a few percentage, 81%. So I had the occasion to listen to a talk by a technical analyst who was with Rare Enterprises, which is Jhunjhunwala's firm. So Jhunjhunwala, is a perennial bull. So this gentleman had come to Bombay, to Chennai, and I somehow managed to get into that hall. 350 brokers and sub-brokers and interested people were sitting in that hall. So this gentleman, we all came to hear because we were very worried, like how people are worried now. We were very worried then that, oh my God, the market has gone up. Nifty was gone up from 930 to 1688 then on that 5th December. I remember that because you see, it was on a Sunday when they held it, and on Friday, the market had fallen slightly. So it was 80% up, 81%. And so we went to hear him. So he gave charts, and I forget his name, is some Nathan, Mr. Vishwanathan or something. He's no longer there with Jhunjhunwala's team. But because, we're all bulls. So we went there, listened to him in Boat Club in Chennai. And he drew charts and various things. And he said, boss, the run is over. The bull run is over. Now, he is coming from Rare Enterprises, a bullish firm led by Jhunjhunwala. And here we are scared that 81% has happened. So most of us believed that the bull run is over. I challenged him because I told him, on what basis are you telling this? What is that which is telling you that bull run is over? Some charts you've drawn, some numbers you put and all that. But look at the quality of that run. The quality of that run doesn't tell me that it is stopping here because people are bearish, they're scared, something like what it was today. So I challenged him, and it looked like I was the only fool who was challenging him. And they shouted me down and said, no, he knows better because he's from Jhunjhunwala. And what happened after that? December 2003, if somebody is a chartist, you can look at it, was one of the finest bull rally. It went up 20% in less than a month. In about a month, 20%. What took 80% for about 7-8 months? In 1 month, it went up 20%. So nobody knows exactly what is the level of the when the bull market will turn. So just because I have predicted that this will be a bull rally, I can't turn around and say, okay, it will stop here. Market doesn't care for who I am. So you have to be, as I said, I keep saying daro mat, because I don't think you should get so scared, because this rally is a much bigger rally, much broader rally, much stronger rally, because this has come again out of pessimism. See, there was in 2020 there was fear of death, and now there is no fear of death. There is fear of entire. I mean, the world is pessimistic, yet the prices are going up. Whenever it does like that, you be ready for a long bull run. As Vipin said, this bull run may not be as fast. We don't want it to be as fast, because the moment it is fast, then there's a chance of an accident. It's just like you're driving a car. You would like to go at 50 kilometers per hour. Try driving a car at 50 kilometers per hour. It's the smoothest ride you'll get. But nobody drives at 50 kilometers per hour. They want 80, 90, 100. And that risks get higher, and the chance of accident becomes stronger as you go faster. So that is one point I would like to highlight. And finally, I would like to just simply say that if I were to chart out as to what kind of a bull run this will be, I would, in my analysis, think that now the first leg is always led by the large caps. The second leg will be led by the mid caps, and the final leg will be led by the small caps. This is typically how a bull market rallies happen. So I believe that we have completed to a great extent the first leg in large caps. So we may still go to 20,000. Let's say even we go to 20,000 is about 10-15% up from here. But I think the bigger story is probably in mid caps. And then if you look at the charts also, you see the small caps have not really moved much. They're down by about, I think, some 14% away from the highs, whereas the Nifty is only 5% and the Bank Nifty is about 7% from the highs. And the mid cap, in line with the Nifty and Bank Nifty, it's about 7% from the all-time highs I'm talking about. So I believe that small cap will find it tough. I also believe that tech and metal will find it tough, because tech was one place where everybody hid. You know, where are you hiding? You're hiding in tech. So tech may find it a little more difficult, though, you know, everybody loves tech, but people probably it's over supply is there in tech. Same thing in metal. Tech I noticed was about 17.5% away from the highs, and metal is about 14% away from the highs. So my logical thinking will be maybe this large cap rally will stop sometime soon. I don't know what levels, but the mid cap will continue. And sectors like these pharma, for instance, which has been in the dumps now, should do well. So this is what I would. This is my thinking. Thanks, Vipin Bhai, once again for giving me this opportunity.
Thanks, Sainik sir. Vinay.
Vipin Bhai, just give me 10 minutes. I'm outside. Please can you continue? I'll be co-hosting, but I'll take some time to speak.
Okay. हमारे पास एक रिक्वेस्ट है, स्पीकर में है द फैक्ट फाइंडर मिस्टर एसके.
Hey, hi. Listen, I'm just outside. I don't know if you can hear me. It's my windy. Can I just, come back in 5 minutes, please? Is that okay?
Okay. So,
I just wanted to ask, however, Sainik, if you permit, I want to ask Sainik one question. You referred to a discussion that you had several years ago in 2003 with a guy from Rare. You mentioned something about quality of the, rally, right? How do you define the quality of a bull market rally? If you could just give specific parameters.
Yeah, the fact that it is a quality means it's very loosely defined. Because if I say it's a quantitative way of looking at a rally, of course one can define it in terms of earnings or even numbers in terms of resistances, supports. Only by experience can you make out what is a quality of rally. Now, quality of rally just doesn't mean that only you need to use experience. You can use common sense, for instance. You can see things all around you, people making plans, for instance. Like in 2003, you had the Maruti, which came out public. You had Canara Bank, which came out public. You had number of companies, good companies, which came out public. And you also had a time when things were settling down in the US. We had just passed the Gulf War, and things were, they had flooded the markets with money, and China had come into WTO. India was recognized as one of the BRICS countries in 2002. So, and you had, the highways which were coming out, and you had the first of the multiplexes. So you have to look at those kind of factors which you really cannot put numbers to them. All around you, you can see there is a change in what we saw in 2003 vis-a-vis what we saw in 1999, for instance. Because if you see the Nifty or if you take Sensex at that time, for 12 years between 92 and 2003, the Sensex really never crossed 5,000, excepting for a very brief while in 1999, sorry, in 2000, 1999 and 2000. Sensex was between 5,000 and 6,100 or something like that. Don't have the numbers right away. So, there was always a fear that Sensex going to 5,000 was a terrible thing. Not terrible thing, I would say it is a dangerous thing to happen. Because the only time it went was in that dot-com rally, and then it collapsed soon after. And then again, we went back to something like 3,000. In fact, on April end of 2003, Sensex was below 3,000. So we always used to believe then that the Sensex can't cross 4,500 and stay there. And that was the case between 1992 and 2003, excepting for the brief 6 months period when it was above 5,000 or 4,500. So that was generally the numbers. If you look at numbers, you didn't give a chance at 5,200 if somebody had told you. That is what it was on 5th December. Then you would have said, boss, we are now probably getting into a bear market sooner than later, and people would have believed. And people believed on that day because I was the only guy who stood up, I remember, and I was shouted down. I distinctly remember that. So that is the case now. For instance, Vipin talks of index going to some 21,000. Now people are laughing at him all the time. They laugh at him, they mock him because how can you? Because you have not seen 21,000. That was the argument put forward by another, let's say, famous analyst. We have not seen 21,000. How can it go? Same thing it was. We never have seen, more than 5,500. How can we see? But on 9th January 2004, when the market peaked out, Sensex had crossed 6,100. It had gone to 6,249. In fact, it never stayed above 6,000 even in the year 2000. On I think Valentine's Day, I think it hit some 6.1 and fell down to 5.9. The Sensex I'm talking of, but it did cross in January 2004. It went above that. So when a tectonic shift is happening, you normally have disbelievers. So when I have gone through that cycle, I am seeing the similarity in this cycle. People are unwilling to be. If somebody says 21,000, they are being laughed at. But I'll be very surprised. I think Vipin's 21,000 now is going to 24, I think, or 26 or something. They are very much feasible the way the environment is now. Now, how do I, more than this, I can't justify excepting saying this is what I've seen in the past. This is what I think most probably we'll see in the future.
Thanks, Sainik. Thanks.
Vipin bhai, I'd like to speak a few words.
Hi, yes, please.
Haji sir. Thank you, Parekh ji. Thank you, Sainik sir. Sir, आज का topic जो है, why will the current cycle be different from 2021? इसमें जो है, I think first, इसमें जो है, मेरी आवाज आ रही है सर? मेरे को echo हो रही है actually.
हाँ, वो अभी सही हो गई है. सैनिक सर ने म्यूट कर दिया.
तो बेसिकली द थिंग इज, आज आपने कहा कि 2021 की रैली वाज मोस्टली अ पैनिक रैली काइंड ऑफ, जैसा एंड ऑफ वर्ल्ड से बैक टू नॉर्मलाइजेशन, एंड इट वाज मोस्टली ड्रिवन बाय अ लिक्विडिटी ड्रिवन रैली वेयर द सेंट्रल बैंक्स ओपनड अप देयर चेस्ट एंड हर चीज में पैसा जा रहा था, हर चीज हवा में उड़ रही थी, एंड व्हिच पीपल वर टोटली नॉट एक्सपेक्टिंग इट. एंड देन केम अक्टूबर नवंबर से वहां से लिक्विडिटी सकआउट का पुकारा शुरू हुआ, and after that the market started giving off some gains, because obviously the smart money started moving, anticipating there will be Fed hikes and liquidity withdrawals. They started moving excesses from the market, and I think the climax of that we saw somewhere in between April, May, June. So basically, why this next bull cycle will be different, I think economic wise, we have to see ki growth factors are returning to the economy or not. See, inflation, liquidity are definitely very important points, and those are one of the two of the pillars of the how the stock markets react. But the thing is, there's another factor which is called growth. जो growth पे कोई अभी बात नहीं कर रहा है. And I think India के favor में आप देखेंगे तो last 10 साल से the capex cycle by the private sector has been on a negative side. I mean, it's been falling year on year. Then, and now to track what happens there, जैसा बोल रहे थे कि how durable the rally could be, I think we have to track corporate credit कैसा बढ़ रहा है, because that is where the cycle starts from. Banks will lend to the corporates, they will invest, and that will create jobs, and that is how the economic cycle really begins. That is where it starts from. And I think we have to see कि सबसे बड़ा जो इन्वेस्टर जो एफआई सबसे ज़्यादा होल्डिंग रहती है बैंक्स में रहती है. दे हैव नॉट रिड्यूस दैट. इनफैक्ट जो भी सेलिंग आई है मेटल्स एंड आईटी वगैरह में आई है, बट बैंक्स वगैरह लास्ट एक साल से यू सीइंग नवंबर 2020 आई थिंक अराउंड 2020 से अंडर परफॉर्म कर रहे हैं टू द होल मार्केट. So I think FII is still holding big in the banks, and the biggest factor, the biggest data point I think one should be watching in the next 3 months, 6 months to get an evidence of whether the economic cycle has begun, the growth cycle has begun, I think will be credit growth कितना हो रहा है banks का. And I think ICICI Bank and many other banks have been reporting very good numbers recently. The next thing is spare capacities investment. I think the investment by private players से ज़्यादा हुआ नहीं है इतने सालों में. That is because of, you can say, lack of confidence or whatever you can say. I think once that capex cycle begins, जब भी आपको evidence दिखता है कि corporates are borrowing from banks and are spending heavily on building up capacities on greenfield plants or anything, I think that is where people will start believing, yes, that this rally is durable. I think that is most important. और दूसरी चीज है कि now technically we are entering into a very healthy state in the world where the interest rates are getting normalized. जो फ्री मनी था, बिकॉज जब फ्री पैसा रहता है तो इट गोज इनटू anything and everywhere. So what was happening now is now we are entering into a very healthy state, like a patient being in ICU. आप वो पूरा सपोर्ट पे था, आप हल्का हल्का करके सपोर्ट निकाल रहे हो. So now it is very important. Of course there will be so many negatives around कि नहीं इतने साल से ICU में था तो कैसा चलने फिरने लग जाएगा. But I think the important thing is you give it a quarter also, people will start believing it. There's always pessimism when something इतने खराब से कुछ अच्छा होना शुरू होता है, तो there's always pessimism. But the smart money, as you said, sir, already knows it, and I think they are positioned for it. जैसे commodities का भी, if you see the commodities crashed in June 50%, literally almost all, or not, I wouldn't say all, but of course majority of the अपने edible commodities. So I think that will take some time to reflect in the data, because it doesn't straight away go into the retail. जब prices गिरते हैं तो जैसा import भी 2-3 महीने का आगे का book रहता है, so it will take at least a quarter to reflect it on the import data as well as the retail side also. But still at least the expectations, inflation expectations are coming off, because just a quarter back people were worried because war was on the height and people were really scared कि अगर ऐसी rate बढ़ते रहे तो margins खराब हो जाएंगी, consumers will not have money to spend. And of course it was evident. Of course, being a consumer, we could also see how the prices were rising. But I think the most important thing the central bankers का रहता है, they always speak about it, managing expectations, because unless you have expectations of a normal period ahead, people will not have confidence. That is the biggest problem. And next, about the commodity cycle, I think there is one more slump due in commodities, because Russia-Ukraine war, I don't know when it will end or whatever. Some positive news there will definitely spark a sell-off in commodities, and after that there will be a demand-led recovery in commodities. अभी तक जो भी था liquidity, war-driven वगैरह, those things were dictating the asset prices. That's why I'm saying that we are entering into a healthy state where the real demand and supply will take care of the markets. And India के अंदर I think infrastructure sector also looks good, because the spending, as I said, by the private players have been on a decline since 2011. And given that the PSU banks today have a very good clean balance sheet as compared to what it was last 6-7 years back, I think they are ready to lend, and they're ready to again take risk lending to corporates, of course with all due diligence and everything. बट इसमें ये बुल साइकिल में ये दिखता है मेरे को इम्पोर्टेंट, ये दिस विल बी ग्रोथ लेट मोर देन लिक्विडिटी. आई थिंक व्हाट वी हैव अपने को 2020 और 21 में जो भी अपन सीखे हैं या देखे हैं, वी हैव टू अनलर्न दैट and see how the stock market behaves when there is a growth-led economy. And I think it'll still take a quarter for people to, believe in the market rally and believe in the evidence. Yes, the economy is recovering, but definitely I think already the seeds are sown. It will take a quarter maybe for it to appear in the mainstream media and newspapers and some evidence and in data which it reflects, because data is always not forward looking, it's backward looking. But what I feel is, yes, this is how the market will move in future. It not be a liquidity driven, it will be more of growth led driven rally. एंड सर एक बार मैं खत्म करने के पहले मिस हेमजा जी से पूछना चाहूंगा कि व्हाट शी स्पोक अबाउट, हेमजा जी, आई वांटेड टू नो कि हाउ विल इट बेनिफिट इंडिया. डू यू थिंक दैट फॉरेन फ्लोज विल कम इनटू इंडिया इन अ बिग वे ड्यू टू ऑल दिस?
Yes, they should, because basically what the US Congress has passed two bills which are talking about very, very large levels of spending. Now, when they are talking about rehauling the entire supply chain, it is understood that the US is going to be directing this towards its partner countries. अभी पार्टनर कंट्रीज में ये अकेला गुड्स पे नहीं जाएगा, गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज दोनों पे जाएगा. एंड अनदर वे टू कंफर्म दैट इज, लाइक आई सेड, दैट हमेशा चीज का टाइमिंग जब भी देखते हैं तो वहां पे यूएस कांग्रेस ने वो बिल पास किया और करीबन एक ही हफ्ते के बाद हमारी गवर्नमेंट ने भी कार्बन मैकेनिज्म का lobby pass kiya that they want to set up these markets, and they also said that from the coming year, from 23, they want the top 100 companies to start reporting uh, their carbon emissions. The other thing was that, I mean, this has been my observation that Infosys, I mean, the IT sector, since IT sector is a good indication of where the services are going, and the manufacturing is obviously a good indication of where the goods are going. So IT may, especially companies like Infosys, TCS, which have a fair amount of outsourcing work, they have already started becoming ESG compliant, because iska basic meaning kya hoga that ek baar these supply chains will get overhauled. So all countries, all components that are part of the supply chain will have to get on board. They will have to be part of one unified database. So it is understood that we are effectively entering a part where you are going to see two supply chains. Like I said, from climate cooperation, you are coming to climate competition. So those supply chains ho jayenge. One will be from the US driven, and one will be from the China led. It's like it's going to be a very different kind of. I would not like to call it a cold war, but in a way, it is a kind of cold war, because all wars geopolitically have always been about trade. आप उनको जो भी नाम दे दो, ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी भी ट्रेड के बेसिस पे ही था. Whatever banner they may use to camouflage, it is always about trade. So for that reason alone, naturally, a fair amount of investment. Of course, it is completely possible, and this we know for a fact that the more sensitive tech, the better tech, the more cutting edge tech, that will remain with the United States. And uske certain, let us say, certain aspects of it that they will decide to partner as far as India is concerned. Some of it will go to the UK, some of it will go to Australia. So this will happen. This has to happen. And secondly, if they want to revive this kind of manufacturing and they want to make this change, they want to make it relatively fast, because let us also not forget that even when we talk about green energy, China, despite what we think, has been investing a fair amount of money in their green energy. So if the US wants to catch up, it is simply not going to be possible for them to invest this kind of money and get results very, very fast. They will have no choice but to spread it around. तो फिर और कहाँ जाएंगे? I mean, India is a natural home. थोड़ा बहुत से भी ज्यादा पैसा इधर आएगा, and बाकी, the ripple effect will take care of the rest.
Fine, thank you, Ms. Parekh. Thank
you. Yeah, can I ask you, Vipin Bhai, with your permission, can I engage with Himja? Himja, two quick questions. See, the first one is, I think, you are a global strategic expert, I would say. I think you've written a book, The New Global Order, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yes, sir.
if I were to say right now we are having a global disorder, okay, right now, because you're seeing something strange happening. You see, Cold War was between Russia and US, but now you have got Russia has got an ally in China. It's got allies in North Africa and Turkey. So it's as of now, I would say it's a global disorder. Now, in this global disorder, before we go to a new global order, there is that that churn which will happen.
Yes.
So how does the world trade uh, uh, behave in this, or what benefit can India get out of this?
So opportunities are always great at times of crises. And when we have this shift that is currently underway. The great thing about India is, like I said, that when we are looking at a complete rehauling of the supply chains, India is definitely going to become a very very important part of it, because we are already quite well placed as far as services are concerned. Goods, not so much. We are not that competitive. But fortunately, this overhaul gives us an advantage. And the second thing is, so basically, if we talk about the two trends that are currently driving, uh, what is going to come, they are effectively, uh, you know, supply chain and climate. These two things. Most of the industries are going to be revolving purely around that. So in this aspect, when we see a complete overhauling, there is tremendous opportunity. And I think Indians have always been extremely enterprising. That in all sorts of situations we have always stood up. In fact, if I would actually say that we have stood up despite the government, but this time around it's going to be a lot easier. And I mean, um, I think we are actually placed in a very very comfortable position to capitalize, and the money will come.
Okay. The next question is, see this CHIPS Act, for instance. These
Yes.
guys came
Yes.
up with some big thing and all that. But where is the raw material for the chips? It's not there in the US. It's probably
Yes.
there in India, and most of it in China. So what is this
Yes.
great thing about this CHIPS Act anyway?
The CHIPS Act, sir, basically they are trying to do this to revitalize their semiconductor industry. The United States doesn't have any advantage as far as chips was concerned, which is why they had, they were trying to always have a good relationship with Taiwan. In fact, even last year when they sanctioned China, uh, the semiconductors were one of the last things they actually touched. Now, as far as the rare earth elements that are concerned, that are very very important for chips. In fact, in our second book that was on Korea, and in fact my other co-author is also here. He's there on the space today, Navroop. So interestingly, while China has the monopoly on rare earth elements in terms of its production distribution, there is actually a larger quantity available in North Korea, which is it's also available in Afghanistan, but it's definitely available in North Korea. And that is the one thing that when Donald Trump was president, that was, in our opinion, it was one of the significant reasons why he was trying to even create better relations between the countries. And but of course, that did not work out. And of course, Trump is also no longer he's no longer president. But the United States will need to do whatever that is necessary for them, because otherwise they don't really have an option.
Okay, final question.
Hmm.
In your opinion, and Navroop also can chip in. See, we had this China-India problem, right? Now
Yes.
America has got into it, and so now the focus apparently will shift to Taiwan slash US or slash
Yes.
Japan. In that case, you think they will ease out on India?
Now, from what I understand, sir, that India is actually always going to, I mean, on the face of it, it is going to appear that it is not very, very aligned. I mean, even Dr. Jayashankar keeps talking about multipolarity. He never talks about, complete bipolarity. He always talks about multipolarity, and that in a way is also true because even Turkey is very much a power center in within Europe and Asia. It has its own power there. Within Asia, it's also going to be India and China. So to an extent, I mean, Taiwan, I think to a great extent, was more or less a foregone conclusion because no country has ever contested China's one China principle as far as Taiwan was concerned, and nobody has even openly come even after Pelosi's visit. The United States did not retract on their one China principle. So it is possible that they could ease, but at the same time, it is also going to be a little bit tricky because Xi Jinping is in a bit of a delicate situation at home because China also has a fair amount of economic issues because of their housing issues, their other bubbles. A lot of their companies are also not doing very well. So I think he would have to, he will have to kind of, monkey balance in the sense he will have to also show people that he's very, very tough. So how much he can completely back off, I'm not too sure. So I mean, are they going to completely let us be? No, I don't think that is possible. But could they ease off for a bit? Maybe. But I mean, the pressure will always be there. That is my opinion. Maybe Navroop has something different to say. I don't know.
Yeah. I wanted to ask Navroop the similar question. Navroop, sir, welcome to the spaces.
Thank you, sir.
Uh, Yeah. See, while Himja touched on, because I'll tell you, this geopolitical business is, when, as I said, we are now going to a global disorder. See, there are opportunities and there are threats. The opportunity for India, I would say, is take Sri Lanka, for instance, which has now been subjugated by China. Now, if China is going to, let's say, ease off on Sri Lanka, or rather their focus moves towards Taiwan, for that matter, then is there a chance for India in whether it's in Sri Lanka or Bangladesh or even African countries? What do you think of the prospect? Because that can change our economic, balance also in some way.
True, sir. Sir, I'll just add to what you said and what India opined कि जो ये ग्लोबल डिसऑर्डर चल रहा है एंड जो ये पूरा जो रिस्ट्रक्चरिंग ऑफ सप्लाई चेन्स हो रहे हैं इसमें इंडिया इज गोइंग टू बी अ स्ट्रॉन्ग बेनिफिटर ऑफ व्हाट इज गोइंग टू हैपन फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल and because you have to look from geopolitical point of view, there was a lot of talk which happened during the pandemic in the 2021 which people missed. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल जब 2021 की वेव में अगर आप याद करेंगे तो चाइना से एक टाइम पे एपीआईज का सप्लाई मेडिसिन का रुक गया था एंड इंडिया हैड टू एक्चुअली प्रोटेस्ट एंड इवन अमेरिका हैड टू इंटरवीन फॉर दैट रॉ मटेरियल टू बी रिलीज्ड फ्रॉम चाइना so that India as a generic hub can manufacture medicines for the world. Second thing, आप देखेंगे semiconductor supply chain. These are two very critical elements we need to understand. APIs का 85% इंडिया का सप्लाई चाइना से आता था. सेमीकंडक्टर का मैक्सिमम सप्लाई अब जो रेयर अर्थ मिनरल पार्ट है वो वहां से आता है. जो टेक्नोलॉजी है वो सारी यूएस की पेटेंटेड है. तो दे आर टू डिफरेंट थिंग. लाइक जो फैब्स बनाती है वो TSMC है, वो स्टेट डिपार्टमेंट से कंट्रोल्ड है. एंड लेकिन जो रॉ मटेरियल की जो वैल्यू जो रेयर अर्थ मिनरल जो लिथियम जो सिलिकॉन यूज होता है वो चाइना के पास अबंडेंस में है. सो वी हैव अ वेरी डाइकोटोमिक रिलेशन. तो आप अगर क्वाड की डिक्लेरेशंस देखेंगे जो 2021 से लेके 2022 तक आई है, it was always emphatic about restructuring of supply lines of silicon, semiconductors, APIs. So, which is why companies who manufacture APIs in India, pharma companies, they will stand to be a big benefactor. And the government of India this time, unlike we have always missed the bus whenever the chance came to of India कि हम लोग benefit करें. This time the government of India has not missed the bus. They have come out with PLI schemes, चाहे वो textile sectors को, बांग्लादेश की इकोनॉमी फ्लाउंडर कर रही है, हमारी हमारी सरकार PLI फॉर टेक्सटाइल्स निकाल रही है. We are standing to our exports in textiles are going up back again. Semiconductors में हमने PLI स्कीम निकाली है to make sure that that India में local manufacturing हो. वेदांता से लेके there are other group companies which want to invest into semiconductor supply chains in India. Similarly, APIs में भी हमारी pharma companies आगे आ रही हैं. So there are sectors where the government of India has actually opened up, and the same space is opening up for renewable energy as well, for the carbon negate. So as India said, every crisis is an opportunity. आज जो श्रीलंका में हो रहा है, श्रीलंका needs a bailout, but Sri Lanka in the neighborhood plays in most large in a defense sector. बिकॉज हमारा जो है हमारी जो स्ट्रेटेजिक लोकेशन है श्रीलंका की, जो इंडियन ओशन रीजन की है, चाहे वो हमारा मॉरिशस का बेस है, चाहे वो हमारे जो आसपास के नेबर्स हैं, दैट इज मोस्ट स्ट्रेटेजिक एंड डिफेंस बेस्ड पार्टनरशिप जो वहाँ है. वी आर हेल्पिंग श्रीलंका फॉर आर स्ट्रेटेजिक एंड डिफेंस. एंड हियर इज माय लास्ट पॉइंट, सर. Defense is also a sector which has largely been negated by many. जब इंडिजिनाइजेशन ऑफ डिफेंस पे जो चल रहा है, जो बहुत ज्यादा आ रहा है, आई नो it's mostly dominated by PSUs, but still there are outperformers even in that. So like people need to identify smart investing. कि आपको आइडेंटिफाई करना है कि वो कौन सी कंपनी है जिसके पास ये टेक्नोलॉजी का कॉन्ट्रैक्ट है या एक मोनोपोली है. सिमिलरली अगर कोई स्मॉल कैप है या कोई मिड कैप है, तो इसका फ्यूचर प्रोस्पेक्ट क्या है, कौन से सेक्टर में है, इनका हाउ आर दे ट्राइंग टू इन्वेस्ट इन अ पर्टिकुलर सेक्टर. See, like you will find Tata Power, Adani Green, Renewable. I'm just giving an example, not an idea for investment. Similarly, you will find अगर आप फूड प्रोसेसिंग में जाएंगे तो आपको वहाँ पे कंपनी मिलेगी. आप डिफेंस में जाएंगे आपको वहाँ पे एस्ट्रा माइक्रोवेव, HAL, ये कंपनीज मिलेंगी. सो यू नीड टू आइडेंटिफाई द सेक्टर्स व्हिच आर गोइंग टू बेनिफिट in next 10-15 years, चाहे वो कार्बन क्रेडिट हो, and also like artificial intelligence and engineering. So like tech engineering is going to be another thing. So we need to identify the sectors and invest accordingly. That's my limited. Vipinji, over to you.
Thanks, sir. Yeah.
Hey, Ratan. Hi. Sorry, I was outside. I want to ask Navro a question, and I think your colleague Himja is not around. Since you guys have written a report or a book, what is your sense, and what do you think about the progress of India's new bilateral treaty? How is that progress? Because India cancelled about.
Treaty with whom?
India cancelled. Okay. India had about, over the period of the last 50-60 years, India had about 60-70 bilateral investment treaties. A bilateral investment treaty or a BIT is essentially a treaty between two governments where the protection of investments by one country into the other is protected within those statutes. So when you have contractual issues, it is the bilateral investment treaty tells you how you can go about getting, contractual problems solved, right? India, between 2017 all the way to 2019, actually, Somoto decided to dismantle about 60 to 70 bilateral investment treaties, and they introduced something called the new BIT, New Bilateral Investment Treaty. But that new bilateral investment treaty was not really, taken well. So I wanted to ask you, since you all have written so much about the Great Reset and what's happening as far as India is concerned in terms of its investments. How has the progress been of the new bilateral investment treaty, and how many countries have signed it? Because if you break it, you have to sign it again.
True. I also saw the drafts of new bilateral treaties. investment treaty. The old one was scrapped. They were pretty outdated. They did not conform to new policy norm because we had the Paris Convention, we had the carbon emission norm. So everything has to be incorporated. So those treaties made no sense. They were more like the colonial hangover of the Austrian Empire. They resemble that kind of treaties. The new bilateral investment treaties were drafted, but I doubt they ever took off for a reason. Because every country now demands a specific free trade agreement. Like we are negotiating a free trade agreement with, I think, UK and Europe, right? And very soon, and we are also negotiating one with with America. There are points of contention. उसमें काफी contentious points होंगे. जैसे IT services पे होगा तो taxation कैसे होगा उसका, double taxation होगा, how will it go? So, and then also there are, if you talk about free trade agreement, like वहाँ पे parity of trade होना चाहिए कि tariffs क्या होंगे. So that has to be seen. This is exactly what Trump administration did. It rebooted a lot of agreements. NAFTA का reavatar हुआ AMCA में. So we are also going on that path. I don't think जो BIT सरकार ने रिलीज करी थी उस फॉर्मेट पे जाएगा. We have to be agile. और उस पे हमें नई न्यू टेक्नोलॉजीज, न्यू टैक्सेस, न्यू जो आसपास जो कार्बन एमिशन नॉर्म्स, कार्बन क्रेडिट्स, ये सब उसमें इनकॉर्पोरेट होगा. Because that is how future is going to be in next 10, 15, 20 years.
Sorry, sir, but I'm not too sure if you understood my question. I don't think there is a relationship between a free trade agreement and a bilateral investment treaty. A free trade agreement is with respect to structures in terms of taxation, but a bilateral investment treaty provides protection for your investment. So if you this is 2019 that India had dismantled all of them and introduced bilateral investment treaties. The new one, which has, as you pointed out, has not been really signed or taken up very well, which essentially means that any investor who is investing in India is not from another country, cannot invest within the framework of the bilateral investment treaty, then his protection is not given, which is one of the reasons why, if you think about it, Google, Microsoft, and Facebook have been in India for eons, right? Google's been in India for the last 15 years. Microsoft's been in India for probably 20 years. And Facebook has been in India probably for 7 to 10 years, and they didn't really need to invest in Reliance Industries. They didn't get anything out of it. The only reason that they invested in Reliance Industries is because to circumvent the fact that no bilateral investment treaty exists. Because if you don't have a bilateral investment treaty, your investment is not protected. So I mean, I don't understand. I don't understand how you're saying a free trade agreement is different from a bilateral. They're completely different. I don't think you can substitute one for the other.
Because investment treaties also have to look about, like you have all kind of regulations. You want, like, let's say it comes to tech sector, that the big tech might want to invest in India, but what kind of regulations do you want to put? They have dispute with you over what you say data technologies, brilliant servers, and localization. Pharma industry has an issue with you of compulsory licensing. So there are bottlenecks which have to be ironed out, which is why complex negotiations are on, and these treaties have not taken off. So there are multifaceted aspects to it. That's all I can say for now.
The other question I want to ask you specifically to semiconductors. I think one of the key resources required for semiconductors, silicon is obviously available everywhere. Rare emissions you mentioned was China. But what about water? Because India's water situation is actually, in a pretty bad scenario, and it's probably becoming worse. Do you think it's advisable for us to invest so much in semiconductors into fab manufacturing? Is it really worth it? And the second point I want to ask you, since I track TSMC very closely, TSMC has technology. And I don't think I don't think it's as easy as simply just setting up a fab and just starting to manufacture, because a lot of fabs do manufacture, but their return on investment is quite crap. And in order to improve the quality of a fab, you need to invest in R&D. And that's something, if you look at all the companies in India, including the pharma companies, including the IT companies, including the manufacturing companies. In fact, even Maruti, which is 45% market share in India, a lot of the R&D actually still happens in Japan. So I'm just saying that India generally they don't invest in technology, and if you in case of improvement of the yield of a fab, you have to invest in technology. So, I see two issues with this. One is, are we going to really invest in technology, or are we just subsidizing the capex using the PLI scheme? Secondly, are we going to aggravate our water problem? Is this the right step to do?
Uh, PLI scheme obviously addresses that about local manufacturing to a certain extent, and I think that is probably a right move, because when the supply chains are diversifying, it is not it would be foolhardy for us to sit quiet and say, look, we assume a problem which might occur in 10, 15, 20 years and let the opportunity go by. That will be foolish from us. And countries like Vietnam and other US allies will benefit, and we'll stand to lose out. Secondly, talking about water scarcity problem, I don't think I have heard about a fab being employed in Delhi NCR or UP or Bihar, right? Where we're going to employ Ganga water or Yamuna water. So probably uske setup, there are companies which are scouting for coastlines where it is easy, and there are technologies which can be used. UAE has invented quite kind of technologies where the saline water can be converted into fresh water, and that can also be used for what you say on a large scale. Obviously, that would need subsidizing for it. So I think the government of India, in its total wisdom, is totally justified in what it is doing, because we do not wish to opportunity. We should incentivize companies to bring not only small scale manufacturing in tech and silicon, but we should also talk about about bringing technology. And also there is like water pollution and all that, water conservation. I think when you have ESG part of it, when you have the carbon credit part of it, those things will be automatically factored in. So I guess this robustly answers your question. I think we can now move on.
Yeah, thanks a lot, for your answer. VK and Vipin, I just want to share a couple of things on the stock market. I am still of the view that we are in a bear market rally. And the fundamental reason is that if you look at the earnings estimates for the IT companies, they've actually been cut in Q1 results. And just for perspective, right, almost 55% of the industry's IT projects come from digital. Digital generally tends to be a marketing budget. It's not a traditional, budget for enterprise, which is, for operational issues. Typically, in the past, or projects were operational in nature. Today, they are more marketing budget, and typically, marketing budgets, while they're clearly important and important for business, if we honestly believe that the US is going in for a recession, and we know that Europe definitely is, then in that case there is a fair possibility your marketing budgets eventually get cut. And when your marketing budgets get cut, typically the impact comes with a lag of about 6 months. Now, the reason why we're not seeing that at the moment is because I mean, and you can track it. Okay, one of the things is that if you listen to the commentary of all the IT companies, they are saying they're now focusing on even smaller projects. The reason why they're saying that is because the bigger projects are not coming by as easily. And for the last 18 months, a lot of the big companies actually let go of the large projects, of the small projects, because there were so many large projects coming through. Now they are changing the commentary, and that, to my mind, is a lead indicator suggesting that maybe marketing budgets are getting now, questioned. And as a consequence of that, the impact of that in order booking will typically take about 3 to 6 months from now. All right, which is one of the reasons why you're not seeing that impact immediately. But the point is, earnings were cut for IT companies. Let's take Reliance, which is another large part of our index. Earnings were cut again for Reliance Industries. Let's take, metals. I think the situation in China is actually, in my view, is surprisingly negatively. The data just came out today about something called TCF, which is Total Social Finance, TSF, Total Social Financing. There was an expectation of about 1.3, 1.4 trillion RMB. Actually, it came at 0.7. So it was a big shot. It was shockingly low in terms of new credit creation. And if you actually look into the detail of new credit creation, it looks like retail, which is essentially a mortgages. People are not taking mortgages at all. And that is, to my mind, a concern because if people are not taking mortgages, it essentially means that they are not looking to buy new property. And it's your property cycle right now, starting August of this year, will be the first 12-month period when sales would have become negative. So the construction activity actually now, delays with a 12-month lag in terms of construction activity. So your housing starts and housing construction actually now, starting August of this year, will start turning negative within China because there's a 12-month lag of sales. So in my views, metals, I think will be a bit of a concern. They will continue to remain under pressure because China is such a large consumer.
हाँ जी, मेरे पास आ रही है आवाज।
नहीं, सबकी बंद हो गई आवाज मेरी ख्याल से।
सडनली आई
Anyways,
थिंक कि कोई डिस्ट्रप्शन कुछ इस तरह का हुआ है। हाँ जी। तो फिलहाल हम अपने टॉपिक पे आ जाएं। सैनिक सर, सैनिक सर आप ऑनलाइन हैं? विनय,
I think there's a problem.
आपको मेरी आवाज
मेरे को
आ
आ
रही
रही
है?
है सर आवाज।
हाँ, मुझे तो आ रही है।
मेरे को आ रही है।
मुझे आ रही है।
मेरे को आ रही है।
ओके।
सैनिक सर, आर यू देयर? नवरूप सर, आप हैं?
हाँ, मैं हूँ, बोलो।
हाँ, ठीक है। वॉइस तो
अच्छा
आ रही है आपस में।
ठीक।
ओके।
आई थिंक सैनिक सर का कुछ इश्यू है। आई थिंक he'll reconnect.
ओके। तो ओके, सैनिक सर इज रिकनेक्टिंग। तो फिलहाल टॉपिक पे आ जाते हैं, फिर उसके बाद क्वेश्चन आंसर के लिए रखते हैं। तो हमारा टॉपिक स्पेशली ये था कि 2020-21 की जो एक वायलेंट, बहुत ही प्रोग्रेसिव, बहुत ही खुशहाली भरी बुल मार्केट थी, क्या इसके बाद यही मिलेगा या कुछ डिफरेंट होने वाला है? विनय, आपको मेरी आवाज आ रही है? अभी सैनिक सर को मैंने रिक्वेस्ट
जी सर, जी
ओके,
सर।
ठीक है।
जी जी जी
ठीक है। तो ये जैसा कि आपने डिफाइन किया कि वो लिक्विडिटी ड्रिवन थी, पैनिक था, जिसको विजिबिलिटी थी उसने मार्केट एब्जॉर्ब कर लिया, सारी बाइंग कर ली, जितनी भी सेलिंग आई, डरा के धमका के, जिस तरह से भी जैसा हुआ। तो एक मिनट, मैं सैनिक सर, मैंने आपको ऑलरेडी को-होस्ट रिक्वेस्ट भेजा हुआ है सर। ओके। तो इस बार क्या होगा, कैसा होगा? जैसा कि मैंने शुरू में ही इनिशियली डिफाइन कर दिया था कि पहला जो मार्केट, जो पहला उछाल होता है बहुत बड़े पैनिक के बाद, वो 15 दिन का पैनिक नहीं था। मैं इसको लास्ट कई बार स्पेस में डिफाइन कर चुका हूँ कि 70% सेक्टर, या यूं कहिए कि मोर देन 70 या 80% स्टॉक्स वाज फॉलिंग फ्रॉम 2018 जनवरी। तो वो जो लास्ट का फेज था वो सिर्फ फ्लैश था, फ्लैश क्रैश जिसको बोलते हैं, जहां पे जो भी बचा खुचा था वो उस डर में क्लीन हुआ, जो भी नया बॉटम लगना था लग गया। उसके बाद से जो भी वहां से चला, वो पहले तो बैलेंसिंग हुई कि नहीं साहब, बहुत जरूरत से ज्यादा सेलिंग हो गई, बहुत ज्यादा लोअर प्राइस हो गए, जितना होना चाहिए फंडामेंटल एक बेसिक वैल्यू मिनिमम। फिर उसके बाद वहां से ये क्लियरिटी आई कि ये सब प्रॉब्लम रिजॉल्व हो जाएगी, चीजें चेंज हो रही हैं, सेटअप है, काफी काम करने के तरीकों में बदलाव आया, जैसे एक वर्क फ्रॉम होम बहुत अच्छे तरीके से लोगों ने एग्जीक्यूट किया, चीजें सब लाइनअप हो रही थी, मार्केट ने अपने उस ट्रेंड को आगे प्रोसीड किया और हमको 18 महीने बाद 150% का रिटर्न मिला। ये एक बहुत ज्यादा एग्रेसिव रिटर्न है, बहुत ज्यादा एग्रेसिव रिटर्न। ये ऐसा हमेशा नहीं होता है, ये रेयर मोमेंट होते हैं। ऐसा एक बार और होगा। जब भी कभी हम बहुत बड़ी पीक पे होंगे, चाहे वो 4 साल बाद, 5 साल बाद, 7 साल बाद, एक बहुत बड़ी पीक होगी। तो एक कहते हैं कि जिस समय इकोनॉमी अपने पीक पे होती है, अब इससे ज्यादा विजनरी लोगों को दिखता है कि इससे ज्यादा बड़े नंबर अब नहीं आ सकते, इसके आगे प्रॉब्लम है। तो उस समय एक वायलेंट मूवमेंट आता है और उसमें मार्केट ओवर प्राइस जाता है। जैसे कोरोना के क्रैश में लोअर प्राइस गया कि जो भी वैल्यूएशन होती है उससे बहुत ज्यादा नीचे चला गया, वैसे ही उस समय अपनी मैक्सिमम वैल्यूएशन से भी बहुत ज्यादा ऊपर चला जाएगा। उसको एकदम हाईएस्ट पीक लेवल बोलते हैं। अभी ये जो बीच का फेस है, जो भी करंट सिचुएशन है, जैसा भी एनवायरमेंट है, जितना भी समझा हिमजा से जियोपॉलिटिकल इश्यूज समझा कि क्या किधर जाएगा, सैनिक सर से डेटा इनपुट लिया, इससे ये समझ में आता है कि हम एक बहुत ही स्टेबल ग्रोथ बेस्ड बुल मार्केट में जा रहे हैं और इंडिया को बहुत बड़ी बड़ी अपॉर्चुनिटी जियोपॉलिटिकल जो भी बड़े बड़े चेंजेस हुए हैं इसके कारण हमको मिलने वाले हैं। तो अब यहाँ से एक फंडामेंटल प्रॉपर फंडामेंटली बुल मार्केट स्टार्ट हो रही। अगर मैं अपने टेक्निकल एनालिसिस के कुछ टर्म्स का यूज करूं इसमें, तो मुझे कुछ ऐसा लगता है कि जो पहला फेस आया है 18 महीने का था, उसके बाद ये अगला जो फेस है वो हो सकता है 5 साल, 6 साल, 7 साल तक की ग्रोथ रेट में ये चलता रहे और ये आराम से एक लंबे सफर के लिए चले। बहुत स्लो होगा, जिस तरह से पिछला मोमेंट मिला था वैसा कुछ भी नहीं होगा। सोच समझ के इन्वेस्टमेंट होगा और एक लॉन्ग रन पे जाएगा, क्योंकि अब चीजें डेवलप हो रही हैं, तुरंत आउटपुट नहीं आएगा। जितना भी नया डेवलपमेंट हो रहा है, अगर मैन्युफैक्चरिंग यूनिट्स लग रही हैं तो उनका आउटपुट आएगा समय से। तो सोच समझ के इन्वेस्टमेंट होगा और स्लो होगा। तो अब इस पे काफी पॉइंट हम लोगों ने डिफाइन कर लिया। अगर इसके बाद किसी का भी कोई डाउट है तो अब हम लास्ट के अपने 45 मिनट्स रखते हैं क्वेश्चन आंसर के लिए। क्वेश्चन आंसर के लिए जवाब आप सवाल किसी से भी पूछ सकते हैं। जियोपॉलिटिकल से रिलेटेड होगा तो हिंजा जवाब देंगी, जहां पर सैनिक सर से होगा वो सैनिक सर जवाब देंगे, विनय भी देंगे और मैं भी दूंगा। तो क्वेश्चन आंसर के लिए विनय आप स्टार्ट कर दो, एक रिक्वेस्ट लेना।
जी सर, रिक्वेस्ट एवरीबॉडी, अभी तक जो रिक्वेस्ट आए थे वो डिक्लाइन कर दिया था। प्लीज यू कैन सेंड एन रिक्वेस्ट नाउ फॉर एनी काइंड ऑफ क्वेश्चंस।
ओके, और ध्यान रहे 10 बजे से ज्यादा हम एक्सटेंड नहीं करने वाले। बहुत सीरियस कंडीशन होगी, अच्छा माहौल चल रहा होगा तभी हम एक्सटेंड करेंगे, वरना 10 PM तक क्लोज। और ये भी कोशिश करिए कि जो भी क्वेश्चन हो वो अपने आज के टॉपिक के अंडर में ही आए। कि कोई भी डाउट है तो आप उसके डाउट पे भी क्वेश्चन करिए बस। इवन किसी को ये भी लगता है कि नहीं यार ये बुल मार्केट नहीं है, ये बियर मार्केट है, उसका भी डाउट है तो वो भी खत्म कर सकते हैं। ठीक है, तो आप रिक्वेस्ट ले लो जो भी आती है, किसी का भी कोई क्वेश्चन।
जी सर।
हिमजा, मैं आपको स्पीकर का रिक्वेस्ट दिया है, हो सकता है आपसे रिलेटेड कोई क्वेश्चन हो तो आप प्लीज एक्सेप्ट कर लीजिए। यस, थैंक यू।
हाँ जी मिस्टर लर्नर, बोलिए।
विपिन सर, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल कांग्रेट्स फॉर योर गट फीलिंग्स एंड योर एनालिसिस। मतलब मैंने आज एक मॉर्निंग में आपने ट्वीट डाला था, डू यू लव बुल मार्केट? सो इन ए नटशेल मेरा भी ये है कि बाय द फियर है और सेकंड सेल द ग्रीड। तो जो आपका पॉइंट है और जो आपका एनालिसिस और जो आप लोगों ने अभी इस ट्विटर स्पेस के ऊपर फंडामेंटली और ग्लोबल एस्पेक्ट्स को देखते हुए हाउ इंडिया इज ग्रोइंग, किन किन सेक्टर्स को बेनिफिट मिलने वाला है, जो सैनिक सर ने बताया, तो दीज वर वेरी वेरी इंसाइटफुल। और इनफैक्ट बिफोर फॉलोइंग एनी ट्विटर एक्सपर्ट और एनी वेबिनार पीपल, अगर चार्ट्स पे भी देखते तो वो चीज पता चल जाती, बट वो एक डर का माहौल ऐसा बन जाता है मीडिया में कि बड़ी बड़ी रैलीज मिस हो जाती हैं। जो पिछले 6 महीने में 1 साल में कमाया वो 4 महीने में उड़ाया और वापस 2 महीने में वो रिकवर हो गया, बट पता नहीं चला। सो थोड़ा सा ये जो आपका जो एडजस्टेड प्राइस ग्राफ है जो आप शेयर करते हैं वो किस तरीके से बनाते हैं, थोड़ा उसके ऊपर कभी कुछ ऐड ऑन करेंगे तो सर थोड़ा हमारे लिए भी इजी होगा, रिटेल इन्वेस्टर के लिए।
कुछ चीजें डिस्क्लोज करने के लिए नहीं होती हैं। कहते हैं कि सूरज से जैसे रोशनी आती है ना, तो अगर बीच में ओजोन लेयर नहीं होगी तो स्किन कैंसर भी हो जाएगा और 50 तरह की बीमारियां होंगी, फिर जीवन पॉसिबल नहीं है धरती पे, तो एक ओजोन लेयर लगाई जाती है।
ओके।
तो जरूरी नहीं है कि हर चीज के तह में जाया जाए, क्योंकि अगर आप उसका यूज करते हैं, कोई बहुत आसान है डिस्क्लोज कर देना कोई भी चीजें, लेकिन क्या उसका इस्तेमाल सामने वाला किस तरीके से करेगा। जैसे मैं आपको पिस्टल दे दूं तो आप क्या करेंगे, कभी गुस्से में आएंगे तो आप घर में भी चला सकते हैं, जबकि उसका इस्तेमाल सिर्फ अपनी आत्मरक्षा के लिए
सेल्फ
करना
डिफेंस के
था।
लिए, राइट सर।
तो जरूरत नहीं है, जितनी कोशिश होती है जहां जरूरत लगती है वहां लगाना, क्योंकि बीच में एक दीवार आती है कॉमन सेंस की, कहाँ अप्लाई करें, कहाँ जरूरत है इसकी, कहीं नहीं, बहुत जगह नहीं जरूरत होती है, तो जरूरत से ज्यादा डैमेज हो जाएगा। तो इसलिए वो हथियार नहीं डिस्क्लोज करने होते हैं, अच्छी बात नहीं है।
ठीक है सर।
ठीक है, ओके।
जी विपिन सर, मेरे को तो कुछ इसमें आ रही नहीं विपिन भाई, कुछ भी रिक्वेस्ट यहाँ पे दिख रही नहीं है मेरे पास स्क्रीन में, कुछ इश्यू है कि क्या है कि
आई थिंक मुझे थोड़ा सा लग रहा है कि स्पेस पे कई बार इंटरप्ट हुआ, किसी को वॉइस का प्रॉब्लम आ रहा था, और आप लोग बार बार डिस्कनेक्ट एंड कनेक्ट भी हुए थे।
जी
तो
सर।
हो सकता है कि उसके कारण हो रहा हो।
जी सर।
तो मैं अगर कहें तो मैं इसको
बेटर रहेगा सर बंद करके एक बार ऑन
एक बार रीस्टार्ट कर दूं, ताकि क्वेश्चन आंसर से रिलेटेड जो भी प्रॉब्लम्स आ रही हैं, लोगों को रिक्वेस्ट नहीं आ रही है, मुझे भी नहीं दिख रही हैं, जबकि लोग डीएम में कर रहे हैं कि हम रिक्वेस्ट भेज रहे हैं, आप एक्सेप्ट नहीं कर रहे हैं, तो प्लीज इस इंटरप्शन के लिए माफी करिएगा। हम इसको 1 मिनट के अंदर रीस्टार्ट करने जा रहे हैं।